Welcome to a Delco Nerd Network podcast. I am your host, Anthony Ragucci, and here with a few friends in the Delaware County area, we get in a basement and we talk about a certain topic. Today's topic is going to be our list for games of the decade. And to discuss, as always, Chris Trio.
What's going on, Gooch? How are
Just
you?
us two. Good. It's been a while since we sat on the table.
I've been
Just
out for the
us
past
two.
two. So Billy was nice enough to step in for Arrow and Crisis and all that. And then you did the Beyond County Lines, of course.
Yeah. So before we jump in, little housekeeping. We got a new show out. It's called
format.
New format of basically this podcast. It's called Beyond County Lines. Essentially, the format is doing podcasts with like internet friends, essentially. So people that don't live in the area that maybe I can cover some different topics on that I really don't have those folks to do here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the object of that. So again, topical podcasts. I don't think I'm going to expand it into reviews, just kind of like what we do on the DNN podcast.
Yeah.
And the first one is about Dark Souls. We covered a decade of that game, since Dark Souls literally has just existed in this decade.
That is weird to think about.
Greg Wells, a good friend of mine, we did that podcast, and that was maybe like 2 weeks ago, I think it came out.
I think so. About that. Actually, maybe only like a week.
Nah, 2 weeks. Has to be. Because it definitely wasn't last week. Because last week was...
Oh, I guess, yes. So
I'm
trying to know where you are.
It was like 3 back.
I'm forgetting we are already in the first week of February, which is weird. But yeah, no, you're probably right.
And we're kind of handling podcasts as well as the
Reviews,
hot takes a little differently. So we're just kind of what we're going to do. I mean, we've been doing a lot more podcasts lately, and I think that's just because there's been just a lot of topics to do stuff on.
Yeah, reviews and such.
So we're not going to just constrict ourselves to doing one a month, because if we did that, we'd be so like...
Or one of each a month.
Things wouldn't be relevant anymore, and like, you know, it would just like hold us back. Same with reviews. Like, okay, if something comes out, we're going to review it, and we'll try to get a review out a month, but I don't think we're going to break our back anymore to try to get...
No, it's more like
reviews out. Because we did a ton in December and early January. Because
there was everything that we want to talk about. Yeah.
Right. And we'll try, like, there will always be a podcast every month, and there will always be at least one hot take a month, but we're not going to be trying to...
like, pump them out just for the sake of having them.
Right. Yeah. Right. We're going to cover stuff we want to cover, and that's...
and not what we don't.
Right. We're not going to try to, like, do something just for the sake of doing a podcast, which we didn't do that often, but, like, as we roll into... March.
Well, we don't.
April,
yeah, we'd be like, what are we gonna do for this podcast?
Because there's like no games coming out, which,
not really many movies
won't be the case this year.
No, yeah. I mean, we got a ton of movies this year too, and stuff like that.
So we're gonna be doing more content essentially. It sounds like the plan is to do less, but it's not.
Yeah.
It will. I feel like we've already been doing way more stuff this year, so that's nice.
Doing it pretty good. Yeah, doing it pretty well. Whatever. But yeah, no, I'm excited. The year should be good, 2020, the new
especially
decade.
For games.
Yeah.
Especially in the Q1, Q2 sector.
Well, I mean, so we lost a few of them now, though, right?
True.
So Cyberpunk. Avengers,
which I think is fine.
Oh, I agree.
Cyberpunk, I was like disappointed, but like whatever. But Avengers is just like,
I don't even know.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, it's I have no idea what that's gonna be. But should we get into it?
Well, what have you been up to?
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean,
we really haven't talked.
No, that's true. We haven't on like
besides
random
seeing Birds of Prey. We did not.
Yeah,
we barely had a conversation.
I mean, you know me, Red Dead, per usual.
Right.
What else did I play recently? I played a bit of I'm forgetting the name because I'm so terrible. Control. I still haven't beaten it. I really love the story in that game, but the actual act of fighting and like getting from story beat to story beat, I don't really love. But it's still a really cool world, and I like it a lot. What else have I been playing? That's really... Oh, yeah. Fucking Dragon Ball Z. That's been fun. It's nothing insane, but
I heard like pretty okay things about that game.
It's a fun way to experience the Dragon Ball story.
You gotta be I would say you kind of... It's funny. Every Dragon Ball game, I would be like, yeah, you kind of have to be a Dragon Ball fan.
100%. Yeah.
Like, I don't think a Dragon Ball game comes out and you're just like, yeah, you should pick that up.
Go for it.
You don't know anything 100%. about it. It's just like not that kind of
you can't do
IP.
But yeah, what about you? What have you been playing? What have you been watching?
Well, I watched Knives Out last night.
That wasn't. I hear nothing but good things.
Fucking fantastic.
Awesome. All right,
Dude,
I need to watch
Chris
it.
Evans post MCU. I don't know if you were seeing the conversation I was having with Penza in the group chat last night.
No.
Dude, I'm just like, I love, like, it doesn't feel weird to see him outside of the MCU, and I think he's like gonna do good.
No, I think he is too. And I mean, he's a great actor.
But like, he hasn't been in any movies really.
No, that's true. I mean, he did Snowpiercer. He did some like smaller romance movies and stuff like that
in the last like 10 years. You know?
No, yeah, but even in the last, I think he has done more than you'd probably suspect or expect. But like, yeah. It's
I
just,
mean, like,
you're not
more
going to pay attention
high
as much.
profile roles
For
like,
sure.
I don't think he's up for an Oscar, but the movie sure as hell is.
Yeah,
it's great.
he plays super against type in that too, doesn't he? Like where like he's in dickhead.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm excited. I do want to watch that. I mean, Ryan Johnson, I hear nothing but good things. They already greenlit the second one.
Yeah.
So
I'm hyped. I think they could do
what's
a lot.
LeBlanc? What's his name?
Benoit LeBlanc.
Benoit LeBlanc.
That's Daniel Craig's like. Listening to do a southern drawl at first was like, oh whoa, this is weird, and he kind of nails it. But like, it's supposed to be a little corny
for sure. Yeah.
And it takes place like today, which I liked.
Yeah.
I didn't know what time
it was
period.
Contemporary. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, this would be really cool if he was just like an investigator on like different cases, because it's kind of like it's Clue essentially.
Sure. Yeah.
It really is.
Did you see Logan Lucky?
No.
I
know he's in it with Adam
He's
Driver.
awesome.
And
Both of them are, and Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's actually the same guy who did the Oceans movies, some of them. But it's great. And he plays that kind of southern guy again in that. He does that accent really, really well. I'd love to hear him talk. But anyways, anything else? Anything else on
I think I saw 1917.
You think you saw 1917?
No, I did see 1917,
okay, good.
But I think we talked about it on the podcast already. Been playing the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC, which I beat the secret boss last night. I spent like 3 hours fighting him.
Really?
It's definitely the hardest boss in the series, and it's just kind of one of those fights like in Dark Souls, definitely comparable, where you just have to fight and die and like just learn it.
Yeah.
Like, and then, like, I was getting to the point where like I was finding like ways to like, okay, like this is how I'll do this and counter this, and like, okay, like I can survive by doing this, and like, oh wait, I can do this to like stagger him to get hits in. Like,
you're learning, you're dying and learning. Yeah.
Brilliant fight. It's really cool.
That's cool.
And I think it took me like probably like 8 to 10 hours to like
satisfying.
Learn. And then last night,
once you got the end though, it was like that. Oh,
I was getting farther and farther and farther, and like understanding more and more. And I'm like, I can't stop. Like I'm in the groove. So
that's good. Awesome.
Last of Us, I think I talked about already. We're definitely going to talk about that.
Sure. That's still not pushed back again yet, right?
No.
I mean, it got delayed the first time, but it hasn't been delayed again since. I think it's like August
it's still
or something.
slated for May. No, May.
Cool. You think that'll get delayed?
No.
I don't think so either. But I keep seeing people online going, like,
if anything, Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah. We only have that one gameplay demo,
I haven't
really.
seen enough of it.
Sony
has like a lot of these weird titles that are on this cusp, and it's just like, well, if you delay it, like, is it next gen?
It has to be. Does Ghost of Tsushima have a delay, like a date?
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either. I feel like that's going to be a PS5 launch game, but
no, it's definitely not.
They said it's PlayStation 4?
Yeah.
Oh.
100%.
What game are you playing? PlayStation? I saw a rumor today, like, it's obviously take it with a grain of salt, and who knows, that Grand Theft Auto 6 will be announced at PS5's reveal.
Yeah, no.
I mean, why? Yeah, no.
Because of Red Dead, Rockstar will just do it themselves.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they've done that before, though. They've revealed games. Like, I'm pretty sure they did something with GTA 5 on PlayStation stage and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they don't need it, but
they
that's
didn't
just
do it with Red Dead.
No, Red Dead, they just let it all go short. Like, I like the way they roll out stuff.
I don't think they're going to go back. I don't think they reveal any of that stuff at their stage.
You think it's just going to be just PlayStation 5 or with the PlayStation 5 event? Like, they'll just be like, this is the PlayStation 5, or do we even know anything about an event for that yet?
No. There's some rumors about February, and I'm just like, it's not E3 because they're not there.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just at this point where whatever I think they do won't be enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're really...
Because they don't have that E3 stage to do, like, to
And
do
I don't-
another one.
I don't want a
and
PlayStation
Xbox
4
is just
reveal
gonna
again, too.
is gonna like take their bulldozer and slowly run over the guy that Austin Powers runs over.
It's like, no.
Like
I
that.
know,
That's
yeah.
what's gonna happen. Like they're systematically like killing E3 every year, but they're also giving Xbox
Just free reign.
just like last year, which they didn't really do.
take
But like
advantage of,
now
yeah.
that we're in the next, they're gonna show.
They can show the big guns. Yeah.
Yeah, they're coming out with the big guns. Now
I agree.
that next gen is officially here.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
we'll have the new consoles this time next year, which
Yeah.
is
And
Interesting.
then in 10 more years, we'll do another Game of the Year, Game of the Decade, because we still will be here in 10 years.
yeah. So games of the decade. So how we're doing this is we're covered from 2010 to 2019. Obviously, we're going to be in the PS3 Xbox generation. I think that's the 7th generation.
Correct.
And then as well as the Xbox One, PS4, that generation.
Yep.
So this is kind of how I think we should do this. We should take turns each giving a game.
Sure.
Essentially, you'll say that you'll do the game, give a little statement. I won't jump in.
You better not.
Because, obviously, this is not a definitive list. This is
Of course, this
extremely
is-
subjective and extremely opinionated.
But if you don't agree with us, you're wrong.
right.
That's it. I
Right.
just wanted to let you know.
But, I feel like Game of the Year can be, really quantified and I think is factual.
For sure.
This is, a little bit okay, there's
Much
some
more
games
subjective.
you have to talk about. And then there's some games that are very subjective. Like, my list is very much like that.
Sure.
So, we'll go back and forth. Say the name of the game, kind of give a reason why this game is a game of the decade. And
Sure.
if I agree, I'll maybe add some points, and if I don't agree, I just won't say anything.
That's fair. No, yeah.
If you say Thief is game of the decade, I won't say a goddamn word.
All right, well, we might as well just cut this off.
I might just leave. I might just
Yeah,
leave.
no, I mean, it's funny because I guess mine weren't even. I do feel like for me, I have a definitive game of the decade. But there are some.
I think it's very hard for me to give that to one game.
Yeah.
I don't like when people ask what's my favorite movie or game. It's such a fucking hard question.
It's tough because you
I
like certain
don't-
things for different reasons or something
right,
like
and
that.
I don't like giving one movie.
No,
the
that's fair.
reign, of that title. I feel like it means a lot, maybe, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because maybe somebody would ask you, and you just knee jerk kick an answer, and it's nah. I look at this stuff a lot more analytically and critically.
Sure.
To not just knee jerk react.
Just
to
this
that.
is it. Yeah. So I don't know. Should I start?
Yeah, you want to go first?
So one of my first ones, probably from the earlier beginnings of the years, was Red Dead Redemption 1. For sure. That was a game where I experienced it and I just thoroughly enjoyed the story and the time setting and just all the mechanics I was dealing with. I think there's one that beats it on this list for me. Obviously, when it comes up, I think Red Dead 1 was 2012, 2011 or something like that.
Red Dead 1?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it just did something with the character and a story that I've never seen done before that successfully for me, just with the way it presented John Marston and the ending it gave us and just the kind of whole wraparound of his story and how in-depth that world is, but it doesn't even come close to the next one, which is even more crazy for me. But yeah, I thoroughly love that game, and it's at the top of my list. I don't think it beats Red Dead 2, but for technical reasons, literally. But
So, segue, Red Dead Redemption 2, I think, is definitely a game of the decade. I think it's a game that, at this point, very high profile, not just Rockstar, but the
Sure.
Red Dead IP as well. It kind of turns this really popular game into an immersive cowboy experience when it doesn't necessarily have to be this immersive experience that's very in-depth, not just in the single player, but the online has definitely been fleshed out.
Sure.
Especially now that we're talking about it at launch, that definitely wasn't the case.
Yeah.
But I think we've done a podcast
discussing
talking
it,
about the Red Dead Online and how it's kind of become its own thing. But I think that single player and that story and that experience is just kind of really top notch. And I think that game is a very good display of what this generation was.
For sure.
Really mastering open world as well as gunplay, as well as story, characters, graphics. I think
Bringing it all together.
Right.
Yeah. It's a game that I can't quite describe, and I think you get it with Death Stranding, and in the same way as me of I like to just exist in that world when it comes to Red Dead 2, and it's rare I find a game like that where I just I want to mosey to the next town. I'm not going to speed through. I just kind of want to enjoy the scenery. I want to live my life as Arthur Morgan or whoever you are at that point. And it's a great time, and it's not for everyone. There's a lot of realism aspects that maybe some people are like, well, why do I have to slow down a little bit to change the outfit on my horse? It just automatically comes. I'm like, yeah, I know, I get it. There are little things. Not everyone's going to love it, but
I was not texting. I'm writing all our
yeah, sure, whatever,
down.
Gooch. You don't care.
I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep a list.
No,
so
that's a good
at
idea.
the end, we can recap it.
But yeah, no, I can't sing the praises of Red Dead enough. From that year, did I skip you already? Or did you give Red Dead 2, I guess?
No, I did give it.
God of War. Like, come on. I can't even... That is probably my favorite... The most gamey game on this Game of the Decade list in the way of, like, you're just beaten down. There's all these different spells and whatever. You have health things that you pick up. You have rampage thing... Or not rampage. You know what I mean? Bars that, like, just fill up. You're upgrading your character throughout. You have these fast travel mechanics. It's unapologetically a video game. But... it's presented a story in such a fucking fantastic way and made you explore the world in such a fantastic way. And just fighting enemies is one of the most satisfying things I've ever done in any video game in God of War. So I can't sing the praises of that game enough.
God of War, for me, is definitely one of the best linear story experiences from this decade, from this generation, from the Xbox One, PS4 generation. It was the one game I played where I never wanted to do any side stuff. I just kind of wanted
to... You just wanted to go...
Yeah.
You were locked in on that story.
Right.
I agree.
I just wanted to see what was happening next, because I think the interactions between Kratos, a character who is essentially revamped. This is
100%.
This game is a reboot of a series that was totally different. Kratos being this musclehead, ragehead, kind of just
having sex with 20 women,
right? Killing people left and right, like really scaled down to this like reflective older guy who has that past, but like is a different Kratos.
He's grown.
Yeah, he has grown a lot. But like they're still reflecting upon those games. They don't forget them. They're still there. But like there are points of reflection in the story. And getting to the end, the music is fucking fantastic. Like, just
so good.
The world is sculpted insanely well, and not all games need to be open world. I think like God of War is a great example of a game that just like not everything needs to be open world.
It's not technically linear though, right? I'd say like
it sets you on a straight path. Like
sure.
There's not that much deviation. There are some side areas, but for the most part, I think it's a pretty straightforward game.
No, I'd agree.
Like I said, like I wasn't going off the beaten path to do side stuff. One, because I didn't want to, and two, I just wanted to progress the story.
Yeah, because you wanted to see what was happening next.
Like the side stuff like wasn't in my face, other than Atreus going, "Hey, we could explore around, the Lake of the Nine or whatever it's called."
Yeah, I guess it is. Like I kind of guess,
but they keep you on track.
For sure.
They're not
and
like throwing
it's
the
very
shit at you.
easy to get all over the map, which I love. I kind of put it in the same category almost as like a Tomb Raider, where it's like a linear open world game in the way of like you have some ability to explore, obviously, and you have that path choice, but obviously it very much directs you. Like if you just want the story, follow this arrow. That's it. And I do really appreciate that. But Gooch, what's another one of your games?
Hold on, I'm setting my list.
Sorry.
One of my games, this should not come as a surprise, is Minecraft. I think Minecraft is one of those games that really defined a generation of gamers, not being necessarily us, even though when we found out about Minecraft, it was still in alpha and beta, and that's when we played it. And then it came out, and it totally went past our generation and went to the younger generation, because Minecraft is like a hit with kids, and that's kind of where it lives now, and it's still extremely popular. It's still selling millions and millions of copies. It's making a ton of money, not just through the games, but through merchandising, and I think it's really left an impact on the industry. It's kind of silly to not acknowledge it, even though we're not playing it.
I saw this. Someone shared this article one time. It was about it was this article that an architect wrote. He was, I don't know, a little bit maybe younger than us, or he's studying to be an architect. Thank you. And he wrote about how the reason he wanted to do that was because of Minecraft. He loved Minecraft. He loved building things. He loved that's something really interesting and cool and something I would not have thought about. Like, this can inspire kids to do some other things. And even, like, every generation, I feel like, kind of has that game that got them into games. I feel like Halo was probably one of those for a lot of people, Call of Duty. Mm-hmm. And I do think Minecraft is up there with it. And it's an interesting concept that, when you think about it, I feel like it's kind of stupid when you just put it on paper. But when you execute it, it's amazing.
And it's influenced tons of games.
So many.
Tons and tons of clones of Minecraft have come out. Things that have taken things from Minecraft and just, iterated upon them, and not necessarily clones of Minecraft. Like Stardew Valley isn't. Do you know what that game is?
I've heard of it. I don't know.
It is essentially take Animal Crossing and Minecraft. It's kind of like a farming game, and you take care of a town, but it's like 8-bit.
Gotcha.
And like that's what it is.
Okay.
And it's more closer to Animal Crossing.
I've seen like Terraria and stuff like that.
Terraria is another game that I think
that's like a 2D Minecraft.
Took the Minecraft core concept and turned it into something else.
Sure. No, it's crazy. I mean, it's going to be a long-lasting game. I mean, how long has it been out now? When did it come out? When did it start?
Officially came out in 2010, I think.
Really?
Or 2011? Here, let me look it up.
10 years later. That's still with us. That is crazy. That's insane. I wonder if I could still log in on because I bought it before. If I could remember my password, I feel like I could definitely log in. That's one of those games that you do need, not need, but it's great to have that incredible creativity of like a child, like that just insane imagination that you just can make whatever you want. And I feel like as you get older, you won't have that as much, sadly, but it's still a lot of fun to do.
2011.
2011?
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Minecraft. Crazy stuff.
True. What's your next game of the decade?
So there's a few that come to mind for me. One, I guess, would say, I'd have to say when it comes to more linear experiences, is Bioshock Infinite. I
got that one too.
Really love that game, and it's weird because I feel like I see on the internet people are really down on that game anymore for some reason.
Infinite?
Yeah.
Why?
Something about it just not living up to like what maybe people want it to be. It feels like much of a retrospective thing, and I don't know if I've necessarily seen a lot, but I feel like whenever I listen to like a podcast, someone brings it up if they're talking about it, but I don't really personally understand why. I think it's one of the most interesting stories we've got out of a game in the past 10 years. I loved the scenery change of going from this dark and dingy underwater city to this amazing cloud metropolis that really isn't a metropolis, and seeing all these kind of social dynamics that they threw into the game without being super overbearing and just hitting you over the head with it all the time.
Right.
It's a very successful and cool story that has amazing characters and things that I care about. And I mean, Booker is an awesome character. Freaking Elizabeth is interesting. And it was one of those first games that you had a companion that didn't annoy you. Like you weren't like, or I feel like I should say single player games, because I feel like whenever you have a companion, usually in a game, or this was way back, even God of War does it well. You have to watch out for them. You have to watch their health bar or something like that, or they're being more of a nuisance
than they are aid.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think Bioshock really hit that well of like, no, she's just there to help you. And you're not escorting her this entire time. And she really contributes to the story.
Yeah, going off that, I think Elizabeth is one of the best executed companions in a game.
Sure.
Like Atreus, I think probably comes
close second.
Maybe not close second, but like in that top 5 list.
Yeah.
Bioshock, always deeply embedded within politics, and I think in Infinite really perfects not only the story but the political aspect that was introduced in 2 and 1, but also the story. Like going back and playing Bioshock 1, the story is not really that much big of a deal. It's more the world.
Sure.
And I think Infinite brings that world building back 100%, but like improves upon the story like tenfold.
Sure.
This is one of the first games that Troy Baker voices the main character. Who's a mainstay. And I think Infinite is the game that you saw Troy Baker and go, oh, Troy Baker from Bioshock Infinite. I think that was the first game. He's definitely been around before. Sure. 100%. Yeah. But I think that was the first game that like put him on the map.
Yeah. He is a household name now.
He definitely is.
And that's like that's one of the first ones you think of when you're naming his credentials, I feel like, to anyone. You're like, oh yeah, Bioshock Infinite, Last of Us. I mean, I could name 5 more, but they're not coming to my mind for some reason.
I could name a ton more, but I'm not.
They're not. That's not going to happen. yeah, it's just a really awesome and fun game, and even the combat is interesting. I feel like there's a lot of fetchy kind of stuff in it where maybe they could have trimmed it down a little bit, but that's really my only gripe. I really do love that game. But what about you, Gooch? What else comes to mind?
Next up, a game that's everywhere on anything. Skyrim.
Dun, 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 dun.
Skyrim, I think
11.
it's again like we're going back to games with like zeitgeist, and this game definitely has this
Cultural impact.
right.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows what Skyrim is, and
They might not know exactly what it is, but you
Right.
mentioned Skyrim.
At Bethesda's height, I wouldn't say, Bethesda's kind of down on the luck, and another company I'll talk about is also down on their luck. But I think Bethesda's last big peak was Skyrim, and I think Skyrim was this evolution of open world game that then affected the entire industry, and everyone was trying to make open world games and be like Skyrim. Not necessarily to a positive turnout, but
Sure.
but I think what Bethesda did with Skyrim really just changed everything. Plus, you can play it everywhere, and they ported it to every next-gen console.
Play it
and
on
it's
everything.
on Switch, it's on PC, it's on Linux, it's on Mac. You can play it on your toaster, your TV. Like,
Wasn't there one? Didn't they release a trailer or something?
like-
go like Skyrim coming to your toast, like literally.
like, yeah, like I think it was a fridge,
I
like
think
a smart
so,
fridge,
yeah.
or maybe
you
it was
can now
a
play
toaster.
Skyrim on your smart fridge. Yeah, no, that game. You're right. It does have that kind of insane cultural impact where even if someone doesn't know about video games, they know what Skyrim is or have heard the name before in some fashion. And just the things it did for RPGs. I've played that game through maybe 6 or 7 times.
Right, and
Like,
you,
it's-
and probably you've only beat it once.
Yeah, literally, like is main story wise. Anyways,
Right,
like beat it.
But and those games, when you talk about Oblivion and Skyrim, you're not really talking about the main story. Maybe you are,
Sure.
but those games are how many hours have you put into Oblivion or Skyrim? It's
Yep.
not necessarily, did you beat it? It's like, how many hours did you put into it? Because you can play for hours and hours and hours
For sure.
and never really scratch the main story. I think especially in Oblivion,
Yeah.
you can totally ignore everything.
You don't have to do it the entire time. And I mean,
Right.
even in fucking Skyrim, like you can just complete. You don't have to go to Mount whatever. It's just like you can just go through that entire
Right,
game.
you can
and
play a lot of the game without the
ever
voice,
seeing a
the
dragon.
theme.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they don't unlock until you.
If you
go
don't
up
go to a
your-
right one,
Yeah.
white
run.
white run.
Sorry, you
No,
almost
it's
there.
okay. But again, the open world RPG was innovated by Bethesda, and they usually have done it. Like Fallout 4 was definitely not an innovating game, even though 3 and
It was very
New
much the
Vegas
same
were.
recipe. Yeah, in
Right.
the way of, and it was. I still enjoy Fallout 4, but it's not that type of impact, like you said, that Skyrim I feel like had.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And of course, the modding community in Skyrim is only just keeping it alive, not only on PC now, but Bethesda listened and brought mods to console,
Yep.
As well as for Fallout 4, and that's really cool that Bethesda decided to take this huge component that was only on one place and bring it to the others, because mods, again, you can go back and play Oblivion and really play this sort of updated experience with mods, because that game is very janky
Sure.
and a borderline meme at this point.
no, really.
It
It's
is
so
goofy.
true. God, what I would pay though to be able to go through that game just in Skyrim's engine or whatever's engine. Isn't there a self-funded project to recreate that game right now?
Skywind?
Yeah, something like that.
I actually
don't even know
don't.
what's been going on. With
I
that.
don't know what happened with that. I know, yeah, they were trying to recreate Morrowind in Skyrim.
Yeah, but yeah, they really did something crazy, and I guess was that all for
Yeah, and I mean,
Skyrim?
I hope they do something like that again with
Elder
6.
Scrolls 6? Yeah, they said that's definitely next gen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know people are down on Bethesda right now, and they've made some mistakes, and I think they deserve
They've made
it to be down.
they've made some huge mistakes.
But I do think they're not down and out yet by any means, and I think they
No,
can easily
no,
come
no,
back
no.
with an Elder Scrolls 6
But Elder
and blow
Scrolls
it out of
6
the park.
needs to be flawless.
No, it
and a
does.
game that is really, again, doing what Oblivion and Skyrim did for the open world genre.
100%.
The open world RPGs. It needs to just be the next game that everyone copies off of.
I agree. I'm with you there. I guess I'll stick with the Bethesda thing right now, and Dishonored 2. Is that it is one of my games of the decade for sure, and the fact of that it sucks because that game didn't get the commercial success that I really feel like it deserved. It got great critic reviews, and whoever I find that most people I talk to that play it really, really enjoyed it, but it didn't get the limelight that I kind of would have liked to see. And I think it's an extremely interesting game and an interesting world, and the idea of you're the supernatural assassin and all these different ways to explore these levels. And I think the first one's great, but the second one really kind of capitalizes on level design in a way that's I just didn't see in the first one. And that clockwork mansion level in Dishonored 2 is one of the coolest and most insane things in a video game in the past 10 years for me. Like, it really, like, to think about all these different moving parts that you can fool with, and you can go into so many different areas, and I just really, really love that game and all the different choices. And I think that's one of those times that Bethesda did kind of take a chance, and sadly it didn't pay off in droves. I mean, like I said, it paid off critically, but not commercially. And I don't know if we'll ever see another one, which makes me sad, but we got 2 really good ones, so I guess I can't really complain.
Next up, coming in with another RPG, as we are, as it's relevant.
Yeah.
Didn't really need to explain that. Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. I've given the title of perfect game.
How can I forget about Witcher? That's definitely on my list.
Yeah. Witcher, I think, is a game from a studio that nobody knew about before Witcher. I played Witcher 2, so I was like, Witcher 2 was this like underground, underrated, like nobody, like cult RPG that like some people played, and the people who played it were about it.
Yeah.
And then 3 came around and everyone started noticing it. But I think Witcher 3 mastery of not just its main story, but telling really fucking well done side quests. I think we get the best romances and the best love stories. Very, I don't want to say respectful. I want to say like with taste. Very tasteful sex and romance in video games, because it like, okay, like
tasteful.
Like you can like fuck some people in that game, but like like also like the romances are
They're
not
good.
just about like fucking somebody.
And
It is a little bit like a step above that, and there's a lot of like class with
your
that
character
game.
is truly falling in love is the idea.
Right,
Is the,
right. With Shawnee, with Yennefer, with Ciri.
Can you choose to not be with any of them?
Yeah.
You can?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I could... Witcher is...
And going back, graphically, another game that like revolutionized open world games to a degree later in the generation. I don't think I'd done it that well since Skyrim.
Yeah.
The combat, I think, is good. It's not the best, but I think it is like one of the best action RPGs we've seen.
I'd agree.
It is a fast-paced game. There's a lot. The combat is very complicated by using bombs and drinking potions and stuff,
oils and such.
Yeah. And like using different weapons, and it's really cool. And like the lore of the game is really represented in the combat and just in everything. Like you can feel like, oh, like he's using this stuff because these are the tools that Witchers use.
Yeah,
and
this
like,
is a profession. He knows what he's doing.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I think there's just like the Witcher's world was really brought to life from the books, not just in games anymore, but in TV. And I think the Witcher IP is just have been a mainstay since Witcher 3.
Yeah, no, I mean, I freaking love that game, and it's funny because I don't think I truly appreciated how good it was until my second playthrough, which might sound kind of funny because I just didn't really take advantage of all the mechanics and things to do with like oils and creating new potions that you really need. I went through the whole first thing without using a health potion.
Wow, that's
without
crazy.
using like the one that immediately heals you. Like I'd use Swallow because you already had that, but I didn't realize I could upgrade the potions. And I felt so. By the end, I
was playing on Death March, so that wasn't an option.
So like I didn't even. And then by the end, I did New Game Plus again because I was like, I really want to go through and I want to.
I still have never played it a second time.
I went through every question mark. I went through the whole map.
That was my first playthrough,
and really just kind of dug into it. And I was like, man, this game is.
It's DLC just like improves upon what it is, and I think like Blood and Wine is like one of the best like epilogue DLCs.
It's one of the best examples of DLCs. Period. I think I really do. Just extra story wise.
It just gives you more of what you loved. Maybe like changing things a little bit to make things a little better, but like the story and like how that game ends is really like, wow.
Yeah. It's satisfying in a way that
it is like very satisfying.
it's full circle.
100%.
And it's amazing. But for me, I guess I got another one in the pipe here. Grand Theft Auto 5. Like, this is one that I feel like you can't not say because it's literally the most profitable piece of entertainment, period, in the last 10 years. It's still selling. I mean, I think it's been in the top 10 selling for the past, since it came out. Like, I don't think it's ever left it.
I mean, like, you're right. Not exactly like not literally every week, but like pretty much every week.
Yeah.
And you know, not to cut you off, but I haven't played GTA 5 and it's on my list as well.
Dude, I really think I've said this before on the podcast, but what Rockstar does with GTA 5 is, or just Grand Theft Auto in general, is so special because it satirizes the world and it's a super super silly place to exist in. It's a very elevated representation of like the current
world.
day. Yeah,
it's very meta,
but they still make you care about the characters, and I feel like that's tough to do. Like to be super silly and satirical
and be very
invested,
parallel to real life.
Exactly, and
Which
to
a
make
lot
me
of
actually
games
care about them.
are not.
Like Trevor, I shouldn't give a shit about at all. He's an insane, weird character, but I kind of like him by the end. And he has his quirks, and I just really enjoyed it. And I think it did something cool with the 3 different protagonists. I don't know if I necessarily want to see that come back in the 6th one, but I think it was well done for some new type of mechanic, and just that world is fun to explore. It's still the best driving in any game, open world game period, I've ever experienced.
Really?
Like that is, easily.
Okay.
It's so tight and well put together, and the story is amazing, and I think that's a big credit to Dan Houser, who actually just left Rockstar, which sucks, and his brother, he's another Houser. I can't remember his name. The other Houser. They do something really special with those games, and it shines through because, I mean, it does well. People enjoy them, and you can just really... That's the fuck around game of the century.
Those games are very immersive, even though GTA 5 is not immersive.
Yeah, and I think I'm curious to see what type of immersive effects that they used in Red Dead will bleed over into GTA 6. Like, if you will need to eat food. And like you will, but I don't know if that might take it away from that or something.
Right.
I am curious to see what they do though, and I'm excited for the possible revenues that are coming.
Even though I haven't played GTA 5, I can't ignore it. A game I've like, there are some games like that. Before I played Last of Us, like obviously like Last of Us, we're gonna talk about at some point.
Yeah.
But GTA 5 is just a game that like, again, is super culturally important to the video game industry. Most of the games that Rockstar makes are
they really are
on that list. We've already talked about 3 of them.
Sorry, that was my keys. These pockets are terrible. Rockstar, yeah, I know. I gotta get the zips.
There's zippers on my joggers.
Rockstar does something truly special. Like I know there's, I almost call them, along with even maybe CD Projekt Red now, like. I know it doesn't exist, but like quadruple A almost. Like they're almost a tier
the top
above.
tier companies who like have essentially done like no wrong.
It's almost impossible to find. Like, sure, there are probably people out there that don't like them for certain reasons or whatever. But like most majority,
they did do Gwent. Like CG Projekt Red did Gwent, and Gwent didn't do like all that well.
Sure.
But like also that's not a cyberpunk.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Can't wait.
Right.
Yeah. But GTA. I actually think I'm gonna replay it soon. I want to experience that story again because it's awesome.
Get all those achievements.
Yeah. Hey, probably not, but we'll see. Anyways, Gooch.
Next up for me is a game, if you know me, is absolutely no surprise. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain.
I was going to say Thief, but continue.
Yeah, of course. And when I say The Phantom Pain, I'm also sort of including Ground Zeroes in that because...
It's a prelude, whatever.
Right, yeah. But it's a cutoff portion of the Phantom Pain. Yes. The Phantom Pain is important and a game of the decade for a lot of reasons. I think it's probably one of the best third-person action games we've ever had. The combat and the Fox engine in that game are utterly perfect.
They are.
Like and it's not like, oh, it works. You look like a fucking cool badass.
Yeah, you do.
It.
You are a spy.
Is a legendary soldier. Like, bottom line, like you just feel the power in the way he fires his gun and the way you move and like everything. And this game is also important for a lot of reasons. It is Hideo Kojima's last Metal Gear game, which probably thought would never happen, even though he said every Metal Gear game he worked on was going to be his last. He still made others. And of course, like, I don't want to just jump into Death Stranding, but like, if he didn't get fired
We wouldn't have that game.
from Metal Gear Solid 5 or from Konami after that game, we would not have Death Stranding. But like, I think Kojima does a lot of wild things with Metal Gear. And even though this game necessarily wasn't finished and its story doesn't necessarily appeal to the majority, I think a lot of people do understand that Metal Gear Solid 5 is a fucking fantastic game, whether you fully understand the story or not. Does open world to a different degree, and I think well enough. It's not entirely open world, but I think it again does it well enough.
You have these smaller open worlds, basically. In a
Right.
way. Yeah. I gotta agree. I probably fall in that camp of I don't care as much about the story, and
Right.
it hasn't really. But it is top of my list in the fact of that game is fun to play. Like it is, like you said, it's some of the tightest controls, some of the most well-made mechanics that I've played in a video game, and it's just a fun time, and it's wacky. It can be as wacky as you want it to be. Yeah. And that's Kojima in general, I think, which is cool and one of his appeals.
And again, like going back to like the development behind this game, I think is really important. A story that we don't know and hasn't been told 100% yet of like what happened behind the scenes of Konami. Kojima, his like fucking baby. Like Metal Gear Solid put Kojima on the map, and that was the only game he's been making for his entire career, and he no longer is associated with it. And like this being the last game, and like the themes of the game kind of relating back to him, possibly like all this stuff kind of makes the game like very much more interesting when you realize that Kojima like hated Konami while making this game.
That is
and
nuts.
The game is about revenge, and like even PT plays into those themes where like he's just mad and upset, and like you can tell.
Try to wrap it up in a nice little bow for me of what happened there again with him and like what was the idea?
So
like
it's
he just was bad blood, basically, or like they didn't like how he was
there's been bad
working.
blood between Kojima and Konami for a long time, and I think again we don't really know why he was fired, other than the fact that I think Konami just had enough with him, and said, "Yo,
we gotta."
see ya.
Yeah, get out of here. You're not worth the time.
There have been a lot of cases where like Kojima like would take his sweet old time and do things his way and spend a lot of money and just be himself.
He is an
while making
auteur of
a
video
game.
world.
And I think Konami, and from a corporate standpoint, they just didn't want to deal with it. Also, Konami was moving towards pachinko machines and gambling machines and mobile gaming, and Kojima was like, no, I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing anything.
And like he would stand his ground, and that's where we are. That's why Silent Hills was canceled and Metal Gear Solid 5 wasn't complete. But
I would love to see his brain be put to work on another horror, and that doesn't have to be Silent Hills, but I would love to see another horror game of that, because PT is still one of the scariest and most unnerving things to view.
Can I skip your turn and say PT is one of my games of the decade?
Sure.
I think PT again, like Kojima, like revolutionizing a genre by accident almost. There's one game that kind of comes before this, but I think PT set the stage for modern day horror games. I don't think Resident Evil 7 would have been made without the influence of PT, and like this game that is like just a demo that essentially is the scariest thing anyone has ever played.
It's insane.
Right.
It really is. Like I play that game, and just the psychological insanity of it is unnerving, and it really does get to you. You don't want to, like, even I'm a big horror game guy, but for the most part I can kind of get through things now, and I'm not like sitting there like I don't want to move forward. But with PT, I don't want to move forward.
I don't want to play this.
Yeah, like this is kind of, but I almost kind of like that. Like it's weird.
Right. And like, hey, like Death Stranding, I think was Kojima's reattempt at MGS5, and he's already talked about like he's probably going to do a horror game next. He has 100% said that, but like just from his tweets, you can tell he's kind of going to gear himself up to do it.
Sure. I think he
do
can
horror to some capacity.
I think he'd be right to do that, because I think it would make a major difference. Okay. So here's probably one that might be a little out of left field for you. Prey by Bethesda as well. I guess that's another arcane game, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm pretty sure it's an arcane. I think so.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I think it's like Arcane Texas, though, not the ones that did Dishonored.
Right.
But you can tell it's in that same type of art style and kind of design. Prey is a really interesting game in the way of, like, again, it didn't do commercially well, which sucks. But I describe it as if Bioshock and Dishonored had a baby.
Cool.
And it's just this really cool, interesting story about how we find an alien race and we create these things called neuromods that basically let you self-install. I was trying to explain this to Meredith, by the way, the other night while I was drunk. Dude. Whoa. But anyways.
Imagine me trying to explain Death Stranding to,
like, pretty drunk.
To anyone sober or drunk.
But, so they work on these things called neuromods, which you can self-install basically any type of learning into your head. And, like, so if you want to learn the violin or something, all right, they take like a reading or something from someone who can play the violin perfectly, and you install it into your mind. You can now perfectly play violin. Only thing is, you have to put it in your fucking eye. And it's even when you're just fake doing it in the game, like, they pull it out, you see the needle come out, and you just see it coming towards your eye, like, oh, what the fuck? Would that be worth it? Like, do I want... Anyways... It's very cool. It's very different. There's this recycling mechanic in it, which is very satisfying in weird ways. And, like, you use these materials and building things is a lot of fun, managing resources. And it takes that kind of thing from Dishonored where there's multiple endings. And there's kind of, I don't even know if there's necessarily two. There might be a few more with, like, some shades of gray in there of, like, what you can do. But the end result's interesting. And I think it's well worth your time. If you're into anything like a Bioshock or a Dishonored.
It's been on my list. I don't know when I'm going to get around
to
it.
I feel like you would enjoy it.
It's definitely on my list.
I think it's worth the pickup, especially now.
I got around Alien Isolation, yeah. I just need time.
No, dude, it's a lot of fun, and I can't recommend it enough. And like I said, it's a little bit of an underdog, which stinks, but worth your time.
Because I already talked about PT and Death Stranding, and we're sort of still close to that. Or sorry, PT and Metal Gear Solid. I have to talk about Death Stranding.
Sure.
Death Stranding is a game that has never been made and will never be made again. I think it is this wholly unique experience that only could come from the mind of Hideo Kojima. Not just that, not just the story, the world, but the characters, the casting of Norman Reedus, Margaret Qualley.
Margot Robbie.
names, blanking. Leah Seydoux, Mads Mikkelsen. You have top list Hollywood actors in a fucking video game, and Hideo Kojima is the only one who would want that and / do it. Yeah. I don't think a lot of companies like really try to go get like big actors. I mean, we have some games like Quantum Break and Man of Medan.
And even those aren't even as big of actors.
Yeah, like Sean Ashmore is a name, but
yeah,
like
but he's not like a Chris Evans or
right.
And
Kojima just like really being not political but very meta with his social commentary, talking about society today.
He's like, we all got to reconnect, and I can appreciate that.
Right, and he's trying to tell a story but also relate to everyone that plays this game, because everyone in some capacity has like the want and ability to connect with others.
For sure.
In very different ways, not just on social media, but like in real life. And like the commentary behind Death Stranding, I think, is something that like nobody will do.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I don't think anyone's going to like try to recreate Death Stranding just because it's too weird.
I agree. And how did it sell? I honestly didn't know.
Really well.
It did sell well.
That's
awesome.
I don't know if. So I don't think Sony's released numbers, or maybe it's also been a hot minute.
I mean, I enjoy Death Stranding a lot. I have my gripes with it, obviously, like I do with every game. Kojima's a weird fuck, and I love it. I do. I think he's a weird fuck, and I think he creates some interesting and very unique stories in that game, and just the idea of the afterlife and how they really kind of elaborate on everything in that. I do think the stuff that kind of, I guess, annoys me in that game is when they just start using all these big words, and then they're like, well, we gotta wait until we tell you like dooms or something. Like, you gotta wait until
Dooms.
we tell you what these words mean, but then we'll give you. And that's fine.
Chiral matter.
Literally.
I'm like trying to think.
Bridge baby, BB.
Yeah,
Like,
BBs, bridge babies.
I do think that's a game I shouldn't like. Like on paper, when you read it out to me, I'm like, what the I'm not
You
playing
deliver
this game.
packages. The simplest way to explain that is
Literally.
you deliver packages,
And
and
then-
that is what you do. But
and then you
there's
play
a
in
lot
front of me.
more to it. I said it during our Death Stranding review with my cousin Chaz. It's the things that happen between point A and B that make this game
make it cool.
special.
And I do. It's one of the most relaxing games I've played in a while. Like, I
Yeah.
do love just kind of throwing on a podcast or something and then walking to my next delivery point or something like that. I still need to finish it. I'm literally right at the end.
Yeah,
So I
you'll
just
get around
literally-
to it.
yeah,
I'm not
I
gonna-
will.
I'm not going to get on your
I
ass again.
will finish it because I put the time in, and it is an interesting and unique perspective on the science
And I think you
fiction
might have
genre.
a lot of fun with the ending because it is a lot different from the rest of the game.
Sure. Okay. I'm interested.
You are interesting.
Oh, thank you, Gooch. You're too kind. I'm trying to think what else was on my list. I mean,
I definitely have a lot more. Trio did forget his list.
I did. Keep going. Hit me with another one. I'll come up.
A game that has, like, it needs no introduction. The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, duh.
The Last of Us has this. I use the term zeitgeist once. I'll use it again. Last of Us is just this game. I think that really represents what games as an art form looks like. The fact that you're playing for 5 minutes and you're probably already on the floor crying as you watch this little girl get shot and killed and die in her father's arms, and that's only the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, like you don't get it yet.
You know, Naughty Dog has really perfected their third person games and their stories, and I think Last of Us just is this experience that I feel like everyone who played it has something good to say about it. Again, it's this game that, like, I wouldn't say it's culturally significant, but like if you've played The Last of Us, you're like, dude, The Last of Us.
Yeah, that's tough.
Like it's just like it gets that reaction.
Sure. Keep hitting me.
Sorry.
No, I don't mind.
Next up, I will go The Walking Dead, a Telltale game, Season 1. I think Telltale struck a gold mine with their episodic game format, as well as using the IP of The Walking Dead to make a episodic story game and really just innovate an entire genre, but also take it down as well, which is very strange.
Which is sad.
You know, like The Walking Dead was the VGAs. I think it was the last VGAs. That was the game of the year, an indie game from a very small company that was like not action game, very choice based, and like everyone started making episodic games. This is where Life is Strange comes from. You know, I don't like. Final Fantasy is now taking some sort of episodic format with the 7 remake, and it's just like, who would have thought that would have worked?
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And like you said, they really did kind of innovate that genre in the way, like, people were like, oh, this is viable. We can make cool games that are more or less just walking around and making story decisions that people enjoy, and you make these choices matter. And one of my favorites from Telltale is the Batman series that they did as well, just because they take chances. And I like to see that. For some of them, they didn't for some reason. But I appreciate that. They want to do something different.
Yeah,
and they want to show you a story in a way that you might not have experienced before. And I think that's awesome.
I think Clem and Lee's story is like fucking fantastic. Like the ending of that game, like it was one of those games. It wasn't the first game I cried at, but like it was one of those games when I finished it, and I was sitting right over there. when I beat episode 5, and I just fucking like broke down. Like it was so sad, and like what you have to do as Clem, like this little girl you're taking care of for the whole game, is now like on the other end of like the gun.
Yeah.
Like she's holding it, and like, you know, and like you got to make this decision, and whatever you do will follow you through the rest of the game. And like, I mean, like, you know, until its finality.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think anyone expected like this little company called Telltale to make such a boom in the industry with episodic gaming as well as the storytelling format.
I totally agree. And I think that they've done something really cool, and something that lasts, but the thing that sucks is they didn't evolve on it, which really kind of sucks. And I feel like that's what sadly put them in the place they're at now, which is sad. Was The Wolf Among Us in the 2010s? Or was that? Oh,
yeah.
That I think is my favorite Telltale game.
Are you saying it's a game of the decade or no?
Yeah, I think it's one of those. I would put that on there. I think it really does something really cool and interesting in the same ways that The Walking Dead does, but with something a little bit more out there and just cool and interesting. And I love Big Bad Wolf as the protagonist and the idea of the fairy tale town and the lore behind it. That and I mean Batman. There's 3 or 4 Telltale games that I'm like, these are worthy, but then the other ones just like I'm like, why did we like Guardians of the Galaxy? Why did we didn't need that one? Like it's just basically the movie Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
Like make them different. Give me comic Star-Lord like they did with Batman. They really kind of went out of the box with Penguin and less so in the second season, but I guess overall I just like you said, Telltale, they get what they're doing. At least in the way of storytelling sometimes. Poor guys. What's going on with they're still making new ones, right? Didn't they just announce that Wolf Among Us 2 is still happening?
Yeah, I mean they like reformed. It's like it's not the same
It's
Telltale.
Not yeah.
I mean it is Telltale, but like it's
Telltale by name.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Next up, a game that we've already done a podcast about just recently, in fact, on our debut episode of Beyond County Lines, talking about Dark Souls. Dark Souls, literally, again, another game that just created a genre that's like everyone compares any hard game to Dark Souls, period.
Yep.
That's what the comparison is to. Everyone goes, oh, is it like Dark Souls? When you say it's hard?
Souls-like. That's
Yeah.
like it's basically its own genre now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't start with Dark Souls, though. Demon Souls came before it, but didn't really have the traction that Dark Souls everyone started playing and talking about and would lead into another game of the decade, Blood-Borne, which I think just did the same thing, but like switched some things up, switched the story up, switched the world up, switched the gameplay up, switched everything up, and just did
Nailed
it
it.
again.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of funny. Like, Dark Souls is one thing, and then Blood-Borne is another thing. Coming from the same company, but like two sides of a different coin. I
was gonna say they're similar.
Sorry,
yet
two
different.
sides of the same coin.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta say, I even played Blood-Borne. I really enjoyed that idea of learning, like you said earlier with the other game, learning the boss's moves, and you're just dying. The mechanic is dying, and you get further and further every time. Like you said, when you get to this point, he does this new move that you have to now watch out for. But you died, but now you know he does it. It's one of the most satisfying things to beat those types of bosses. It really is.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. Was getting back to some RPGs. Here.
Would you like to just peek at my list and
Yeah,
take
that
something
would
from
be
mine?
that would be fantastic.
Something. There's probably like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mass Effect 2. Come on, that is one of the tops in the way of like RPGs and having these companions that really make a difference in your story, depending on how much you really want to pay attention to them, and the idea of Shepard and what is he again? I'm trying to remember. Is he a
Spectre?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is a Spectre?
Yeah.
And he was like one of the last Spectres, right? Or are there multiples? I'm trying to remember. It's been so long. No. Anyways.
I don't think so.
It builds a very interesting and cool
He's the first
sci-fi
human
world.
Spectre.
Oh, I think that's what I'm thinking. It builds an interesting world. It gives you interesting characters to inhabit that world. Different alien races are cool. I got to give it to that in the fact of it created this world that I wish we get more out of, but unfortunately we got the dud that was Mass Effect Andromeda.
When I was talking about Bethesda being one of those companies that's falling for graces, and I mentioned that there's another company, BioWare is that company. Mass Effect 2 is BioWare at its fucking peak.
Finest. Yeah.
The Mass Effect 2, I think, is probably one of the, like, if you did a top 10 list of the greatest RPGs of all time, Mass Effect 2 would be on it.
Sure.
Its story is incredible. Its characters are fucking awesome. The gameplay is really good. Like the side stuff is there, but like creating this world, this space world. I was like,
Space world.
This space world to rival Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think it really
Even
does.
the Star Trek, yeah, like it does.
I think I would put Mass Effect's worlds and universes alongside those two big guys.
I'd agree.
Because it really just does. No, sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm trying to feel. I feel like I've covered most of my big ones.
Okay.
For me,
I got a lot more, or a few. Some of them will probably go quick. Like this one. Sorry, not Overwatch. Hearthstone. Again, another game that revolutionized a genre, which is the card games. You have the Elder Scrolls card game. You had Gwent. You had all these different games kind of copying this card game style, and like Magic as well, digitally. That Hearthstone kind of started.
Yeah.
I've really haven't played Hearthstone in years, but like the time I did play that game, I was having a fucking ton of fun.
Yeah.
I've just kind of like fallen out of it, and there's been so many
Happens.
updates that
Yeah.
going back just
Can
kind of
only do
seems
so
like
much, yeah.
right. But I feel like that card game genre is really big, and I think you give that title why it's like that to
For sure.
Hearthstone and Blizzard. You got anything while I fill this out? You got 5 seconds.
No, I really feel like I've covered. I feel like there's gonna be one that I'm gonna get home and look in my book though. I'm gonna be like, how the fuck did I forget that? Because it's just gonna it's in the back gnawing.
Well, another Blizzard game, Overwatch. I think Overwatch really came into the multiplayer space and reinvented it. 6v6 hero character oriented gameplay where like you pick the character and this character has unique abilities and stuff. And again, a lot of other games try to copy that formula to a degree, and I think Overwatch, not just the game but like with the esports scene of the Overwatch League, have really like done something special. And they're making a sequel unlike we've never seen, where like all your stuff from Overwatch 1 is going to go into Overwatch 2, and they're just kind of like putting a fresh coat of paint on things, and doing like some different campaign things, which they did not do in the original.
Yeah.
Again, like this, I think this is one of the only multiplayer only games we have on this list, but I feel like it's extremely important to the industry.
So I got another one for you. You might bat me away. Fortnite.
Yeah. I got this on this list.
Yeah, that's yeah. I don't necessarily love that game anymore. Like I don't play it a lot, but to act like it hasn't done something for video games would be ridiculous.
Every mom and dad knows what Fortnite is.
Again, talking about the zeitgeist of like
right.
Everyone, there was a streak there for like a month. Fortnite was on the news for some reason or another. I feel like for a while, and it's done some really interesting things in the way of bringing the battle royale genre to the forefront and making it something that people really kind of think about and enjoy. And it's given way to things that I might like, versions of that I enjoy more, like Apex, which I think is an amazingly fun game and capitalizes on that same type of play style in a different way. But I got to give it to Fortnite in the way of it really did bring it out and bring it to the face of the genre, or not the genre, of the industry. And it's cool, and I love that art style. I like the idea of it. Not big on the building.
It's kind of like, we had our time with Fortnite. We both played it
for sure.
And again, it's kind of like moved into another generation of younger kids.
Again, this
Apex is kind of more attractive to us, I guess, because it's more mature.
I think it's like that classic first person.
I also like Apex more than Fortnite.
I do too.
But we can't deny the like cultural impact Fortnite has had within the last like 3 or 4 years.
1000%.
Like even if it bringing negative press, that game is just like everyone knows what it is.
And I mean, it's made that idea of releasing a game for free and just making money off of cosmetics viable. Like did you see how much EA made off of Apex, like skins and stuff? It's like $3 billion.
I don't know.
So like it's insane. And honestly, that's something. If you're not buying something that's altering the game, and some idiot wants to buy a $300 skin, I don't really have remorse for that guy. I'm sorry. But like, yeah, it's an interesting thought. Gooch.
My next up is going to be another BioWare game, BioWare at their peak, Dragon Age Inquisition. I don't think there are a lot of medieval games, even though we've talked about a few of them today on this list. I think that sword and shield and magic genre is very lacking. But I think Dragon Age Inquisition does sort of a tactical RPG very well. Not just its story. Again, we've had 2 games to kind of build the world, but like we're finally seeing the world. Dragon Age 2 and 1 don't really get to everything, whereas Inquisition is like we're going to different continents and stuff, and it's not just staying in like one area. Dragon Age 2 is in one city, and Dragon Age 1 is in Dragon Age Origins is just in Ferelden in the continent, but in this one you're everywhere. And it's kind of like taking these like smaller worlds you've had and really just like blowing it up, even though you've always heard about it and been there. The story for Dragon Age fucking is awesome. I can't wait for the next one. But I really think the medieval genre is just lacking. The fantasy genre is just, there's not a lot of it anymore, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I do think like Bethesda and them were at the forefront of that with like your Skyrims and Oblivions and all that. But yeah, no, I agree. You don't see it as much anymore. That's a game I feel like I should like more, but I just could never dive into. But anyways, Gooch, what else you got?
Next up, this is definitely a personal one. Deus Ex Human Revolution. I think Deus Ex Human Revolution is probably one of the best RPGs from last generation. It's like one of the best linear experiences. I think Adam Jensen is like a fucking amazing character, an amazing world, kind of like telling our future in a way, like, you know, a future setting what could be. And I just think its gameplay is awesome. It's kind of like this stealth action RPG game, and I think it just does a lot of things super well, enough to like it's really stuck with me.
I agree.
I don't think Mankind Divided necessarily has the impact that Human Revolution did, but
hold
on, I got a few more and I'm just typing. I got like like 2 or 3 more.
It's rapid fire, these last ones. I want to shit on Birds of Prey. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
Nah, I'm kidding. Just wait and see. Well, actually, that'll come out before this. So
Kingdom Hearts 3, again, another personal one that Kingdom Hearts 3 is like the first game that I really got attached to, and kind of finally seeing that journey come to its conclusion almost 16 years later is very special. Like when I first put that game up and I just sat in the main menu and I fucking like sobbed like a baby. Like just like I'm like, this is finally happening. Oh my god.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's again like a game you probably heard a lot about, not just from me, but maybe other people you talk to. But like a game I think that means a lot to a lot of people.
For sure.
Not necessarily the best. I really enjoy the story. I think the story is really cool. But like I think personally, a lot of people connect with Kingdom Hearts, and that's why
it brings them back to a time in their life for sure.
Right. It's definitely based in nostalgia for me. I feel like I had to put an indie game on here, at least one. And that indie game is Papers, Please.
Wow, what a good one,
right?
I agree.
I think Papers, Please, like, is my favorite indie game of all time, and like, it's really simple. You're just a fucking dude who checks passports, and like, they tell this really deep political narrative, and like, also like, you're questioning your morality as you play. Like, you're not just like letting people in, but like, some people are like, okay, you have like, just person after person, and then one person comes in and like bribes you or gives you a story and be like, hey, like my wife is next, she doesn't have
a passport,
the stuff she needs, can you just let her in? And we'll like, and like you have to do this, like, do I let this girl in or do I like do my job right? And like I think there's a lot of cool moments
it's
in that.
It's weird because
game.
you're doing basically bureaucratic work, but like it's done in a way that it's interesting, and like as you go through each day you have certain more papers that you need to look out for, and there might be a certain discrepancy that you need to be aware of, like maybe the birthdays don't match, or maybe the day on the certificate to come into the country, the date is off, the entrance day is off.
Yeah, and
like,
hey, if you're not doing a good job, your family suffers.
Yeah, like you lose money and your grandpa will die, or your dad, and then your son will get sick and everyone's cold.
And everyone's just really cold.
Everyone's cold all the time because you don't have heat. And yeah, that's a good one. That's one I forgot about that I really had a good time with. I
got 2 more that kind of roll into each other, and you're going to be like, this one, how can you forget? Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
That came to my mind a little bit earlier.
Amnesia: The Dark Descent is the first horror game that everyone talked about, and I think really started the horror game craze
as we know it today. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I think it is still a really scary game. And I remember when we were playing it back in the day, back when we kind of first became friends. I remember like I told you about Amnesia, and you were like. And you played it in my house, and then you got it yourself.
Didn't we do something for Everything Entertainment where we
No, it was for like my YouTube channel.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you remember that when we did the? Oh shit!
It was on Halloween.
It was like it was like a mod DLC thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What the fuck? Started with a J.
Did it?
No.
Not Justine.
I don't remember.
Like the DLC.
But yeah, that was it's a monumental game in the way of, like you said, people now know about the horror genre from that. Like, that's a mainstay. I mean, it sucks we didn't get, like, a comparable follow-up.
I mean, Soma's pretty good. But
Soma is pretty good.
But I don't think is Amnesia.
Soma's a lot more psychologically fucked up.
Right.
Like,
it's not like...
It's questions
scary,
of morality.
But but there is a lot of, like... It's more like in your head stuff, whereas Amnesia is like, there's just a scary fucking monster with a big mouth coming towards you.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And last but not least, our final game of the decade. Want to take a guess?
Halo?
No.
What
Halo?
3? I don't know. When did 3? Oh, that was 09.
09. Yeah, I think it missed the cutoff.
Fuck, I have no idea. Hit it with me. Hit me with it.
Hold on.
Hit it with me.
This is the 28th game on our list, the final game. It may be the most important game.
All right.
Thief. No.
Knew it. I knew you were lying.
I would have squeezed that in there if I didn't mention it earlier. I would have just like gone on some like little like short sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thief. Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
And I think the reason Resident Evil 7 is on that list again, a game that like came out of PT and put Capcom back on the map.
Yeah.
Revolutionized and reinvigorated the spark that is Resident Evil, which we now got the remake of 2, and we're going to get the remake of 3, 4.
Yeah.
You know, going from third person to first person, doing this more like PT Amnesia experience.
First person survival horror.
Right, that would not have happened if it wasn't for those games.
Yeah.
I think like
and it's funny because it does go back to the old recipe for Resident Evil bar first person, but
right.
like you're conserving ammo, you're really looking in your inventory and you got to manage it.
The puzzles are back. It's an RE game,
100%,
but it takes a lot of influences from the horror games that restarted the genre, because like the horror genre really didn't exist. I mean, like Resident Evil is definitely a thing,
but those were more action,
right?
Yeah.
Well, no, like in a way, but like it like I feel like the horror genre, like making a scary game, is definitely a thing now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I can't praise Resident Evil 7 enough. I would have loved to actually give it the run through in VR, but I never got the chance to. I heard it's okay. We actually did a review on it. Probably one of our more early reviews, if I want to say. Yeah.
Wait, Resident Evil 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Nick. Yeah, Nick was on for that.
It's interesting. I knew by the end of that game, I knew the house layout like it was the back of my hand.
Right, and
like
same thing with the police station in RE2.
For sure.
Same thing with the Trevor Mansion in Resident Evil 1.
They do a really good job with that. Like, I don't need a map.
I haven't even played Resident Evil 7 yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Really?
I mean, I played it, but like, nah.
I didn't know. I forgot about
I'm
that
going
shit.
through the whole series. It's the end, man.
I love it.
All right, so to recap real quick, I'm going to run through our list. Games of the decade, fucked it up on the first one. Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War, Minecraft, Bioshock Infinite, Skyrim, Dishonored 2, Witcher 3, Grand Theft Auto 5, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, PT, Prey, Death Stranding, The Last of Us, The Walking Dead Season 1, The Wolf Among Us, Dark Souls, Blood-Borne, Mass Effect 2, Hearthstone, Overwatch, Fortnight, Dragon Age Inquisition, Deus Ex, Human Revolution, Kingdom Hearts 3, Papers, Please, Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and Resident Evil 7. That is DNN's Games of the Decade.
Yeah.
You know, this is a list that is going to be different for everyone, but
sure.
I'm glad we could sit down. And I thought about bringing other people on, but like this is our podcast, so I figured it might as well be just our list.
I think so.
Not a guest.
Yeah, the DNN list.
Right.
Yeah,
The
I like it.
The official.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us live. If you've been watching us live on twitch.tv/Delco Network, we very much appreciate it. You can find us on YouTube as well as basically every podcast service. Just search Delco Nerd Network, and we should pop right up for you. And
I didn't mention this earlier on housekeeping, but
yeah.
now on iHeartRadio.
Correct. Now on iHeart. If you guys could leave us a review on those platforms, it really does help us out. It kind of pushes up the list. Just does a little bit of a nice thing for us. And hey, if it's a bad review, just give us 5 stars and just say how bad it is, because that'll be totally fine.
Yeah,
that'll
I agree.
still definitely be a bad review. Anyways, all this info can be found on our website, www.delconerdnetwork.com. For Gooch, I've been Trio. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy, and we will see you next time.
What?